Hi everyone, we're back.
Yes, it was a very short break.
I know, very, very short break. But we are so glad to kick off the second session of Divorce Con. First session was amazing.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Thank you, Rob Roseman from WTF Divorce. It was the best. And now we are excited to continue on with our day of connection and community and education. Hi, everyone, with Wendy Meadows. Points.
So Wendy's amazing and incredible, and we love her. And she's got over 20 years of experience in family law, and she helps families of divorce with less conflict, more clarity, and healthier outcomes through collaborative, court-free solutions. And she's also the author of an amazing book called Sparkle and Grit, which is a blueprint to address burnout for working moms. And she's also a dear friend of ours. So we are so excited to have you, Wendy.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. That just got me
Yeah.
all warm and fuzzy on the inside.
Yeah, that's what we want to
Because
do.
that's how you've always been for us.
Yes.
Like you've
Oh,
been like seriously an encourager from the beginning, and a colleague, and you are someone whose counsel we trust. So,
Yes.
yeah,
I love
yep.
it. I love you
Glad it was
guys
warm
too.
and fuzzy.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to jump in, right? These are lightning sessions, and you are good at breaking things down in ways people can understand, which is why we wanted to have you be a part of this. But can you give us just a brief overview of collaborative divorce? Because I think a lot of people think like, oh, we're being collaborative, like we're working together, and that it's just some like generalized collaborative. But this is an actual, real,
Yes.
like managed, standardized method. And so if you can just break it down for us so that
Right.
everyone's on the same page.
Agree. And people hear collaborative, they think amicable, and collaborative can be amicable, but really when people just have a nice, easy divorce, that's just an amicable divorce. Great.
Right.
Like that's what happened, right? Collaborative, but like to break it down, I'd say there's three buckets on how people get divorced. It's either litigation, which we all know, right? We're with the judge, we're arguing to the judge, cross-examination, like you're on the witness stand, etc. Like that's litigation. Over
Mm-hmm.
here is like mediation, which I also hopefully we get to talk about at the end. Mediation, where mom and dad, husband and wife come together. We together, like the mediator and the two parties, they reach a solution. Cool. Like so, those I think people know about the most, right? But we have this other animal that people don't know about, and it drives me bananas. And it's called collaborative divorce, and it's very different because it's a team centered approach to divorce, meaning like all of the divorce discussions happen at one table. And at that table, you have a mental health coach leading the way. So we have a mental health person, a therapist type person, someone trained to deal with hardship and like
Heavy
Emotions.
stuff.
Yeah.
all the hard that I will tell you. Well, we can talk about that another time. But like that I now personally know how freaking hard it is. And it is, and attorneys who have not been through it don't know because you just don't know what you don't know. Right. But you have that mental health person at the head of the table leading the discussions. You have the two parties. You have each of them have an attorney who is collaboratively trained, and there are rules with collaborative law. And you might also have other professionals to help you settle the case, like they're called financial neutrals, or neutrals in general, financial neutral, maybe even like a child specialist, such thing. And together as a group, you figure out how the divorce is going to happen. So that's with regard to the finances, with the kids, with the mechanics, with who's moving out, like et cetera. Like it's a group project as opposed to somebody like telling somebody else what's going to
Right.
happen.
Yeah. And that changes the whole tone too, I think, because it kind of gives everybody an equal voice, whereas
Mhm.
the traditional route kind of feels like scarier in a way, I think, at
Yeah.
least from my perspective.
Right. And maybe there's a little bit more control in terms of the outcome, right? Because like someone just commented about, and then you do all of that, and then the magistrate or the judge decides.
Mhm.
But I think collaborative
Yeah,
divorce, you're coming to an agreement there, and so you're
exactly.
taking the control out of the hands of the judge or the
Yeah.
magistrate
Exactly.
or whatever.
Like
Yeah.
in the collaborative divorce, you decide everything soup to nuts. Like you decide everything, and at the end, you have an agreement drafted, like a marital
Right.
settlement agreement, and then that is then what is presented to the court and how you get divorced. But the thing I think that is the most neat about it, as so much of the divorce process is weaponized, and it's weaponized. It's either attorney fighting attorney or it's
Right.
spouse fighting spouse. And then what I find happens is this like really, really hard game of telephone where like person here is like maybe has a complaint, maybe it's not even a crazy complaint, like let's say wife has a complaint about husband, or maybe something didn't quite happen with regard to school, or maybe something happened, like she has a different idea about how she wants to do the house. Wife will tell her attorney will hear it, but she's not going to hear it the same way wife is even discussing it. This attorney's going to discuss it with this attorney's going to discuss it with husband. And then it's an awful game of telephone with a whole bunch of, now you've added in three people's emotions, wife's emotions, attorney's emotions, this attorney's emotions, it gets to him. And then it just, I find it blows up the process and becomes like really, really expensive. And what collaborative divorce does, we're
Yeah.
all at the same table. We're all in the same Zoom room, you know, like we do it more now over Zoom than actual like conference room tables. And that process is amazing because you actually, everyone gets to hear what everybody is saying with their own ears and not in the game of telephone. And then what I've seen is just so much miscommunication happens in this process. And that's, again, what drives the drama. It's what drives the bills. It what drives like much money being spent on divorce. And I think collaborative divorce takes all that out of it.
Yeah. Now, who can you tell us who is most suited for collaborative divorce? Like if somebody's interested in processing divorce approach, is there like a dynamic that's more suited to it that
I
you
would
can talk
say,
about?
I would say definitely if someone, I'd say sometimes for the more complicated divorces, either with regard to the kids or with regard to the, sorry, there's one person on here that keeps commenting sort of like offensive things, and it's like a little distracting. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
we see it.
Yeah, we're gonna
I'm
remove.
able to like move them.
Yep, I
Um,
got you.
it's so I say it's more it's definitely more suited for like cases that are more complicated. So maybe somebody has their own business, right? Someone has their own business, and we need to get to the bottom of okay, what is the actual income and what is the
Mhm.
actual like property, like what they actually have in terms of property. Or maybe somebody that has more complicated financials. And so maybe like each person has a business, or say, you know, we have different like financial assets that are more unwieldy and it's not as simple as a retirement account and a house. Or maybe there's like multiple children and the different kids need and want and desire different things. And a court might not be able to issue a ruling that like identifies each child and what each child needs in this relationship, but like in a collaborative process we can look at the individual needs of each child and person. I think it's great for that. I think it's really good for alimony cases, because alimony cases
Mhm.
can get tricky, especially maybe someone that's been a stay-at-home mom for a long time and she's really
Mhm.
scared, and she's scared and doesn't
Right.
know what, you know, what to do, what to expect, how she's going to pay for all of this, and perhaps this is the process where some more of that is lined out for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so I think this is a good segue. I mean, or a follow up to this, right? If one partner maybe is particularly narcissistic or
Mhm.
manipulative, and maybe says like, "Oh, I'll participate in collaborative divorce," but honestly, they're just pulling strings and doing what they need to do, and you know that about the partner.
Yeah.
Um, like how might you suggest that someone navigates that?
So it's a big it depends, right? So like if the
Yeah.
person is a true blue narcissist, and I think the term gets thrown around like crazy
Yeah.
nowadays, but true
Yeah.
for real freaking blue narcissist, this might not
Yeah.
be the right approach, because let's pretend that collaborative process fails, and it does sometimes. Well, then you have to still go to court, and now we just like prolonged the process, right?
Right.
So
And
sometimes it
spend more
is.
money.
Yeah. So what I have found, like with true blue like for real narcissists, like it is probably the faster you can get to court and have the court decide on your case and get done, the better. But the frustrating thing with like true blue narcissists is they are going to keep the, we've all seen it, right? They're going to file something every 18 months. You're going to be in the divorce. You're going to be back in court every 18 months anyway with somebody like this. So it's
Yeah.
probably not the best approach with collaborative law. Now, there are amazing attorneys out there who are collaboratively trained who might be able to like have rein in this person more than the average bear could, and maybe you could get to an agreement that way. But that it really would depend on the players and who is there and who the attorneys are at the table, right? But really, what I see in the big personality disorders, it's it's just perhaps easier to take it to litigation and be done rather than go in circles and circles and circles and not get
Sure.
anywhere.
Now, we just dropped a prompt in the chat to let people ask questions about collaborative divorce while we have the last
Mhm.
few minutes. But while we're waiting for people to ask questions, can you tell us where, if someone's interested in learning more about collaborative divorce, where can they find resources?
Yeah, so if, I'm going to make sure I'm Googling anything. If they Google IACP, yep, no, is that right? Yeah. IACP is the International Academy of Collaborative Professionals. And
Okay.
those are all people who have been collaboratively trained, and you can organize by state, and you can find different collaboratively trained lawyers in the state that you're in, as well as other professionals. Because like I said, every collaborative divorce needs someone at the table that is a mental health professional coach. And that's the person coaching the process and making sure the process is ticking along as it should. And then you can also find your professionals that way as well. That's the easiest way to find someone that has been legitimately trained.
And another, I mean, I think another question I want to make sure we ask here is that, like, just thinking about all the people that are involved in
Mhm.
collaborative
Mhm.
divorce have hourly rates,
Yep.
and things like that. Like, clearly, this is expensive.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
if someone, it's not going to be for everybody just simply because of
Yeah.
the expenses, as itself.
Mhm.
So, like, then is mediation a viable option, or can you compare and
Yeah.
contrast? And also
Sure.
address whether or not collaborative divorce is related, I'm sorry, or is available outside of the US. That's
Yes,
a
it's
lot of questions.
international. So
Sorry, Wendy.
collaborative
I know
is
you got it.
so easy answer is yes. Collaborative divorce is everywhere, and I find different
Okay.
states and different countries are more akin to it than others. Right. So different states, it's like everybody knows about it, everybody doesn't. In some states, like
Right.
absolutely not. In some countries are more into it, and some countries aren't. Okay,
Makes
costs,
sense.
right? The most expensive way of divorce is litigation. That is the most expensive way. And I'm seeing, and people's mouths drop when I say this, but like easily people can spend 100 grand each on divorce. Easily, like in a year.
Mhm.
So
Right.
litigation, like you're paying the lawyers, right? You're paying the lawyers like that. That's where your money is going. The cheapest way of divorce, maybe not advisable, is just mom, dad, husband, wife sit down, fill out paperwork themselves, and get it done. I only advise
Yeah.
that if there's like no property, no kids, or like really easy peasy stuff, and maybe like a one
Right.
hour consult with a lawyer who's read it over, said, yeah, cool, this works. I think mediation, and so collaborative divorce is a close. Okay, so looking at the continuum, so we have litigation over here, like kitchen divorce over here. I know I do have my chart. I do have my chart, but your people have already seen my chart.
Yeah.
Uh,
We got to
so
get a
collaborative.
good visual of your
I know,
charts to like
I know.
share with everybody so they know.
I know. And collaborative divorce, I would say it can be pricey, but it's not nearly as pricey as litigation. So exactly, people think, oh no, all these professionals is expensive. But the cool thing is in collaborative divorce, let's pretend you have like 5 or 6 meetings with all of those people. Whatever that cost is still extremely cheaper than litigation. Because in collaborative divorce, you
Mhm.
say, hey, please send me the documents. Here you go. In litigation, it's a request for production of documents, and you ask for like 100 documents, and then the associates and everyone else is compiling them. Then you have to compile them in a certain way
Right.
and arrange them in a certain way, and you have to look over them to make sure everything in there is like cool to send. And then you send it over, and then you say, well, I'm not going to give you these because I'm going to be an asshole. So attorneys are like, well, there's
Right.
a reason why I can get out of sending you this document, and then everyone's fighting about discovery, and then you're in court fighting about discovery. Collaborative,
Yeah.
give me the documents, here you go, done. Right. So it can be pricey, but not as bad as litigation, and it's faster. So think of like the time price as well too. Litigation takes about 2 3 years. It's getting a little bit better. It's starting to go a little bit faster since COVID, but still like year and a half, 2 years. Collaborative divorce can be done 3 to 6 months. People are like really pushing like three
Right.
6 months, maybe a year if it's like complicated issues. Mediation, like that is what I do primarily, and it's my heart, it's my love. It is where I think most of these cases can be resolved, and it's much cheaper, much is cheaper than way cheaper than collaborative, way
Mhm.
cheaper than litigation. And I think it's a great way for couples to divorce with dignity, with respect, with a decent agreement, without a whole lot of nonsense. They can meet, with a mediator for sometimes just one session, typically 2 to 3. I say
Okay.
typically 2 to 3 sessions because couples usually come to that first session not having done all their homework. So usually in the mediation process, I send them off with homework after session one. And then what I find too is once they see how like conversations are modeled and how I'm saying, okay, I hear you saying X, Y, and Z. So what's your proposal? And what do you think? And da, da, da. And once couples see that modeled for them, then sometimes they're able to have some discussions offline and then get back to me and say, okay, Wendy, we actually figured this out. We're ready for you to draft the agreement. And that is probably, I think mediation is the cheapest way. where you're still getting an attorney drafted agreement. You should still probably have an attorney review that agreement, but it is a really great way for people to go through that process.
Right. And
Yeah.
when oh sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and I love how you framed it as you modeling like a way to talk between the
Mm-hmm.
co-parents,
Mhm.
because really a lot of what we're learning through this process is like how are we going to rewire ourselves to communicate and behave differently with spouse. And I feel like mediation, it sounds like, could be a really good first lesson in that.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
think so.
So we have one question
Yeah.
that we have time to ask before we wrap, and we tell people ask you to tell people where to find you. But for families that may already have like a an agreement in place, right?
Mhm.
But they want to rehash monetary or custody matters.
Mhm.
Is collaborative divorce a potential
Mhm.
option for that, for revisiting a prior
Of
decision?
course.
Great
Like,
question, Rod.
yes, and so like, let's say there's already been a property distribution or a property award, like that can't go, like, I don't know about other states, but I'd be shocked. Like you can't undo that, fix that,
Sure.
amend that. Like if someone says someone gets like a monetary award, like that is then done, right? Like for the property
Right. You can't really
piece.
take
Right.
it back
Right.
necessarily.
So the only places that can be revised is if there's a modification of custody or support, and that's usually there has to be a material change in circumstance. So yes, if there's a material change in circumstance that leads someone to wanting to change custody or thinking the child support should go up or down, yes, collaborative divorce could totally be an option for that, as mediation too, right? Like, and usually people come to like a different process times number 2 or 3 after they've done litigation and see how that went, like
Yeah.
in terms of the costs.
Wow.
Yeah. Fascinating.
I
Well,
know.
as always, Wendy, you are just a fountain of knowledge and just, amazing energy. And we just so appreciate you joining us. Can you tell us how people can find you and what kind of resources you offer on your social media and just in general?
So I'm primarily here on Instagram at Wendy S. Meadows. I'm sure they'll see me or something like there
Mhm.
underneath somehow
Yep.
easy. And LinkedIn. So Wendy Sarah Sare Meadows. I'm on LinkedIn and you'll see me talk a lot about mediation, divorce, parent coordination, as well as some coachings. I do some coaching as well over there. And my book, Sparkle and Grit, you can purchase it on Amazon and it definitely helps like it, I wrote it for the burnt out working mom. So the mom that is like trying to do all the things, trying to juggle all the things, feels like she finally has time to get herself back together. That's who the book is for.
Well, and I want to also say we have a few other questions popping in, but
Mhm.
we know you to be a very accessible person. And
Yeah,
so, can people DM you if
of
they have
course,
some follow up questions from the session? Yeah,
of
definitely
course.
DM Wendy. She's
And
great.
follow her for amazing resources too.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So she's again a ride or die, a real one,
Yep.
and we appreciate you, Wendy. Thanks for being part of the very first
Yes,
divorce con.
you're
Yes.
welcome. I
And
appreciate being here.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, also, someone loved your gray streak. Like they said from
Oh,
the beginning, like we know she's a badass because of the gray streak,
Yes.
and we're
oh, I
like,
love it.
yeah,
She
That's my
is.
coat. Yeah.
Very,
facts,
yeah. Yep.
Thanks.
facts.
Beth.
Basically.
All right, friend.
All
All
Well, we'll
right.
right.
see you soon. I hope in person. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll be back in 9 mission show from off at Kerman.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right, bye, Wendy.
everybody. Bye,
All right.
Wendy.